Alright, what is going on everybody? It is your boy Bounty here, back with another video, but this time we are back with making tier lists because this is what everybody does nowadays. So, if you notice right here, this was the first ever tier list that I made, and I think I ended up making this tier list about like 1 month into the game. So, as you can honestly tell, many things have changed. Well, if you see down here on the bottom, we have DLC. So obviously Peacemaker, Omni-Man, and Kenshi have dropped. Obviously, like I said before, I made this tier list before any of the DLC has dropped. So obviously there are a lot of changes, and my computer is making noises. So obviously there are a lot of changes to this, and obviously I'm going to be changing some of it because just looking at this, like having Sindel in the pure honesty tier, I'm not too sure about that. And also how it says plays the game like how MK1 was intended to be, I definitely gotta add a few people on that list too. So let's just get straight into it. I'm not gonna be doing a lot of stuff honestly, but definitely some changes need to be made. This needs to get updated. So for those of you who are unaware, the way I made this was S tier for this one, the top one. A plus tier plays the same game but much better than everyone else. A tier, and then B, and then B minus for this. But now that I'm looking at this, I feel like honestly removing this tier, hold on, they're not bottom tier. I'm just doing this just so I can delete it. So there really isn't like a B minus tier in this game. So now the new list will be S tier, then A plus, then A, and then B. There is no reason to have like a B minus tier. That literally makes no sense. So who belongs in S tier, right? So obviously you all know who I'm talking about. These two stay. These two have been nerfed and they're still fucking S tier, right? Because they play the game how MK1 was intended to be. Absolutely busted with the cameo system. And that's fine. You know, they added the cameo system for a reason, for you to do all this crazy nonsense, so it makes perfect sense. But you know who else belongs on here? Kenshi definitely belongs in here. Ashrah belongs on here as well. And here's another hot take. Kung Lao, Katana, and Tanya all belong here. Because actually, nah, I'll get to Tanya. I'll get to Katana later. But definitely these characters belong up there. Now let me just organize them a little bit better. I think Liu Kang is a potential argue for this as well because he plays this game very perfectly, especially with the chameleon cameo. It's very scary, very scary. So that is definitely a point of argument right there. But I feel like this list right here is good. Let me just give you my logic on everything. So obviously Johnny and Raiden, I'm pretty sure we've all seen it, especially Raiden with the Kano stuff and all that, with the down one storm cell. I feel like actually Raiden overtakes Johnny in this aspect because even though Johnny did get nerfed and he is still a very strong character, don't get me wrong about that, he's still very strong, very scary. I feel like Raiden just literally got a slap on the wrist. Like nothing changed to Raiden's game, literally. Down one to Storm Cell, still very strong. Doing moves into Storm Cell period, and then using the Kano knives or the Kano ball to keep yourself safe is still a very valid option. And Jano, Jesus. Johnny, you can still do all your crazy stuff, of course, like you know, keeping up your block pressure with the Kano knives and all that stuff. But I don't know, like when you get hit by Johnny, obviously it does hurt a lot, but like I feel like with Raiden it's even more annoying because, you know, he has the fireball, he can zone, he can play a very keep away sort of game once he gets that life lead if he so chooses to, or he can be very aggressive. Versus Johnny, like even if you do have the life lead, you can play defensive, but you can't really zone with Raiden, like with the fireballs and stuff. You can do like shadow kick and then call your knives to keep yourself safe, but I feel like that's really all you can do. Versus Raiden, you actually have a fireball which you can hold and get multiple fireballs at the same time. Although you can't flawless block it, if you have the timing with it, it is still something very hard, like that you have to practice. So yeah, I feel like Raiden actually overtakes Johnny in this aspect. Now in terms of Ashrah, I'm pretty sure we've all seen the crazy stuff that Dragon does with Ashrah, as well as other Ashrah players that are out there, but more specifically Dragon, just because Dragon has had more success with the Ashrah Serena of getting a lot of damage that you can get with Ashrah, especially that forward 2. Even though her normal is a high, it does cover a lot of ground, and I think her string is 2-1. It's like mid-low or something like that into the Serena knives, and you get a lot of damage off of that. Obviously it is a low, and like people gonna be like, oh, all you have to do is just block low versus this character and all that stuff. But like that is the mix-up, because you don't know if they're gonna go for a strike throw mix-up or if they go for the forward 4-1-2 string. I think you all know what I'm talking about. It's that mid string she has that she starts with a knee and then like she slashes, the second hit is an overhead. So like, yeah, there is a lot of pressure that she has, especially with the Serena cameo. And if you do get a combo with this character, you're eating at least 350 to 400 damage minimum off of any hit, which is actually insane. And also the main thing that everybody is talking about is that little projectile she has, which is plus on block, and also her wake up, her back forward 2 being absolutely insane. There's literally no other way to put it. Her back forward 2 wake up is insane. The fact that you can hold it too, and even that's a mix up on its own, is actually ridiculous. And even though everybody talks about her light stance, her dark stance is also just as insane with the back forward 2 shenanigans. So yeah, so obviously we all know about Kenshi with the Sento stance and all that stuff. The very crazy 1-4-1 string, I think that's what it is like high, low, high, and then you could just get like a full combo afterwards. Obviously with the Sub-Zero cameo, you can get the guaranteed freeze, set up the Sento setup, and then you get just sandwiched in between the Sento and the Kenshi player. It's very strange because Kenshi is very, very strong, don't get me wrong about that, but like they need that Sento. But lately, what Kenshi players have figured out is like, oh shit, I also have buttons that I can use. So like Kenshi players using the back 2 and just catching everybody off guard with that thing is very annoying to fight against, because like the range on that move is actually ridiculous. Obviously there is recovery. If like you get the read on it, you can punish it. Obviously I'm a Nitara player, so I can just do my back forward 2 and get a punish. If you're not ready for that, like you're actually like screwed. And also Kenshi's movement is ridiculous, super ridiculous. Like Johnny's movement is insane, Raiden's movement is, all these characters' movement is insane. But with Kenshi, once you get comfortable doing the block dashing and like you're just catching everybody off guard with your spacing, doing back 2, or just mixing up your 1-4-1 and then going for throws afterwards, like it's actually ridiculous the stuff that you can do with this character. Moving on to Kung Lao. Kung Lao, I don't know why people don't use Kung Lao. I'm gonna be very honest with you, right? Splash was like one of the very few people that very like brought a lot of light to this character with the Kung Lao Goro of just keeping yourself safe, and then if it does hit you get a full combo afterwards, is actually ridiculous. Because Kung Lao sort of reminds me of how this is gonna be very weird to say this, reminds me of Nitara in the fact that when he jumps you have to be very careful, because even though he doesn't have floats like Nitara does, he has a dive kick, and you have to be careful of that, because if you anti-air in this game, you actually get a lot of damage for it, which is good. It incentivizes the anti-airs. But if you try to go for an anti-air attempt with the Kung Lao player and they call that out and they hit you with a dive kick, now you're in a situation where you have to guess on wake up whether they're going to pressure or if they're going to go for some sort of 50-50 into the Goro to keep it safe. And if it does hit, then you get hit with a big combo into another knockdown setup where you have to guess, which is very terrifying. So like Kung Lao is scary in that regard, in which like he has, it's not necessarily that he thrives off of 50-50s, but it's the fact that he's so safe that you have to commit to an option that puts you in a very bad situation, and then that's where he capitalizes it and gets the punish, which is very scary. And then obviously Tanya, I'm pretty sure we've all seen the same thing with the Goro, very annoying with the chip damage, very annoying in terms of how safe she is on her stuff as well. Her projectile is being absolutely insane, that little staff that she has controlling so much of the space. Obviously she doesn't hit as hard compared to these other characters, but it's the fact that more so her damage comes from damage over time as opposed to big stuff. So obviously somebody compared to like Kenshi, where he hits you for like 350 or 400 damage depending on what setups he has, and then setting you up into the Sento sandwich is obviously very annoying. Versus Tanya, maybe she hits for like about, I don't think I've ever seen this character hit more than like 350 than without using Fatal Blow, if I'm being very honest with you. Like usually you're eating like 250 to like 320 on most stuff with Tanya, but it's the fact that, like as I said, damage over time is very annoying. And also, I just noticed, because we have DLC, this one is controversial. Another one we have up here is Peacemaker. Now, Peacemaker, even though he just dropped, hear me out for a second, he's not like these other characters, like what I said with Kung Lao with the 50-50s, keeping it safe, or like or with Raiden or Johnny and all that stuff. But what really thrives in this game in MK1 is forcing you to make a mistake in which it seems like you can challenge but you can't, and Peacemaker is really good at doing that. So his forward 4-1-2 string, the range on that mid is insane. Obviously it is a slow mid 100%, but the amount of distance that it covers, if you're not ready with that forward 4-1-2 and ready to punish it, you are going to get hit by that string. Or if you end up blocking the string in time, they can just cancel it into eagly and keep themselves safe. The 2-2 mix-up that comes afterward is actually ridiculous. So there is an option select where if you do the 2-2 grab or you do 2-2-4, there is an option select to where you can actually just let go of the block button very quickly, and the OS is that if they go for the strike, you are going to block it in time, or if they go for the throw, it just goes over your head, which is fine. But the thing that people have recently also discovered, I think it was Aziz on Twitter who actually ended up showing this, is that if you have the Kano Ball cameo, and if you end up timing that with your 2-2 mix-up, it actually covers every option, making it a true unblockable, which is actually ridiculous. So if you go for the 2-2-4, the Kano Ball hits first just before you can block on time, and then you get hit by the kick afterwards, which I think is like 150 damage. Or it's the same thing that applies with the grab, so you get hit by the Kano Ball first, then as you're about to hit the ground, the grab ends up hitting you, and obviously if you have a bar of meter, you can confirm off of it, which is actually insane. So you're either going to be eating 150 damage by doing the hit version, or you're going to be eating a full combo off of the grab. If they try to armor, because the Kano Ball and the physical hit that comes after the 2-2 string, that actually armor breaks, and he actually tested it. I think the person that he ended up testing it was Tanya and Johnny. So even with those two having pretty fast reversals, they end up getting their armor broken, which is actually ridiculous. So I feel like this character Peacemaker is actually S tier, because not only of all the crazy options that he has, like I just mentioned, but also the fact that his damage is very good for a character despite how simple he is. And since we're already on the topic of DLC characters, Omni-Man also belongs on here as well. Plays the same game but much better than everybody else. So the thing with Omni-Man and Peacemaker is Omni-Man definitely has his options 100% for sure, like I'm not denying that at all, but compared to Peacemaker, it's not as much, it's not as bad, because everything just comes off of the Viltrumite stance, and if you can't get into that stance, you can't really get anything. So that is one of the pitfalls of this. And also Omni-Man was really kind of designed to be this counter zoner type of character, because for those of you that don't know what the stance, obviously if you throw a projectile, he is just going to graze by through it as graciously as he is with this beautiful costume that he has in the cape and all that stuff. But his damage, like how I said, is actually really good when people started figuring out the optimal damage using the like for example the back 1-1, whiffing the 1-2, stand 3 into back forward 4, forward 3, Viltrumite stance 1. That's like the classic optimal combo that everybody does. So he definitely has his perks, but I feel like where he falters compared to the S tier is the fact that how should I say it, like Peacemaker definitely has his moments, because I feel like the way he opens you up, like I said, is with mistakes, versus Omni-Man is just more so like he kind of has to force it, versus Peacemaker happens more naturally with the eagerly, and also like I said of just the 2-2 grab or the 2-2-4, versus Omni-Man is just pure, it's either using your 1-2 string to keep it plus, or you go 1-2-2 to get hit, or you use your 2-2 string, the second hit is an overhead. If you catch them with that, then obviously you confirm, but if not, then you just go for your basic pressure. That's pretty much like his entire game plan, because no one really uses his forward 4-1 string, even though it is a mid similar to like Peacemaker, but the amount of range compared to Peacemaker's mid versus Omni-Man's mid is way different, 100%. And I feel like the rest of these tiers can actually work just how they are with Baraka Rain. Maybe if I just take Rain out of here. Let me move up Liu Kang in front of Omni-Man. I feel like this is much better. Just looking at this list kind of makes more sense. Actually, let me pull up Sindel, because I just see Sindel is over here as well. I think she's also an S tier character, to be honest with you. I don't know. She's a very weird one with me. Very weird one. Everyone says she's S tier, but I feel like she's not really on that cusp compared to these other characters, if I'm being very honest with you. So yeah, I feel like I'm pretty happy with this placement right here. Let's see if there's any other characters that I'm missing. Oh, General Shao, come on. You definitely belong up here. Not necessarily S tier, but you definitely belong in here in some capacity. Definitely Here, I think. You go above Reiko. Simply because when Shao gets started, it is very hard to escape. Versus Reiko. Reiko is a very interesting one, in my opinion. He more so thrives off of being annoying. Similar to Katana and like the fact that you have to go through the zoning, the ninja stars that he has. I feel like that's what really sets him apart as a character. I feel like if he honestly didn't have the ninja stars, this character would just drop, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like the fact that he has those ninja stars and with how good they are is what brings him up, because his offense is good, don't get me wrong, it is 100% like legitimate offense that he gets, but what gets it even scarier is when you try to play a ranged game against Reiko, you cannot do that because he does it way better than you, or better than most of the cast, I should say. Versus Shao, even though he doesn't really have like a range game compared to Reiko, what he does have in terms of his offense is it's not comparable to Reiko at all. He has legitimate 50-50s, especially when you put the axe down. It is actually insane using that overhead punch that he has, especially if you're in the corner. It's actually scary, and how we saw in the Brazilian tournament, I forgot what name was the Brazilian tournament, but it was the official MK1 tournament that they had in Brazil. I think it was in Sao Paulo, where we saw the General Shao player, the Brazilian, where he was using Shao Darius, and we saw like a glimpse of how crazy that team can get. So yeah, like the amount of potential that Shao has when paired up with these cameos is actually ridiculous. Like it's honestly very scary, as I said before, because once you get into the corner, escaping Shao is actually really hard. Oh god, this is very tricky. Nitara, I feel very conflicted with, very conflicted with, because now with the chameleon cameo added, this character actually came up, but I'm just more so trying to figure out where her spot is in this list. Because if you use other, like if you use the Kung Lao cameo, for sure she still belongs here. Not necessarily bad, but like you really have to struggle a lot to get anything going, similar to Reptile, Sub-Zero, and all these other characters. But once the chameleon gets added, it becomes a whole different game. I feel like she's kind of up here, if I'm being very honest with you. If she has the chameleon cameo activated, I feel like she's not necessarily like low tier over here, but how should I explain this, man? This is so tricky. More so keeping it like well, Scorpion needs to go down here. I don't know why he was in the mostly honest here. What is he doing over there? I feel like he's at the very edge of this. So like above Havoc, but below Smoke. Yeah, I feel like this is a good spot to put Nitara in. If we're talking about the chameleon stuff, then Nitara definitely belongs in this tier, because the amount of damage that this character gets when she gets the hit is genuinely one of the most craziest. The only other character that I've seen that can hit this crazy hard is Kano in Mortal Kombat X. The oh my god, what variation is that? I forgot the name of the variation. It's cybernetic cutthroat Kano. It reminds me of Cutthroat Kano, where if you just land a single hit and if you get the right setup, you're easily hitting for 400 damage, if not more. If you have the amount of meter and if you have a fatal blow and all that stuff, easily reminds me of that. Especially with the chameleon, the fact that you have an overhead option now, and you can mix in your back four sweep that you can easily hit confirm into a dive kick, or you can just go into the Melina overhead ball roll and just also hit for 400 damage. This character can legit two-touch you. If you have 2 bars of meter, this character can just two-touch you into death, and you would just instantly win the round afterwards. It's actually ridiculous. And obviously you can do the same with these other characters as well, like Reptile, Scorpion, because they do have the option. But I think with Nitara it's different just because of how hard she can hit. Obviously Reptile with the force balls and all this crazy stuff with his back 3-1 string obviously being very strong, but there is a gap in that string. If you try to use the Melina ball roll, it'll actually break the armor, which is actually insane, because I actually tried to do that and I got hit by it and I got absolutely destroyed by it. But yeah, I feel like with Nitara, it's just a little bit more of a step above, just because this character is just meant to just be in your face all the time and all that stuff. Versus somebody like Reptile, even though he can be offensive in his own way, it's not necessarily to the extent of how Nitara is. Scorpion, despite the immense amount of success that Javier has had with tournaments and all that stuff, I feel like that's more so attested to Javier's ability as a player and not necessarily as the character. Scorpion is still a good character, 100%, don't get me wrong. Like, when I say like so this is S tier, A plus, A, and then B. B is still possible to win tournaments 100%. But like as I said, if you want to win a tournament, offline events, do not choose these characters. He places highly 100%, but he has not won an offline event yet. To say the character is bad is a lie. 100% it is a lie. And maybe he can prove me wrong if he just finds some tech with Scorpion or something, but until then, unfortunately, he's just gonna have to stay right here. I'm pretty happy with these placements. Nitara, I'm still up in arms, and I'm being very honest with you, because there's a lot of different places this character can go, but to say they're bottom 3 like how they were when the game originally came out, I don't really believe it no more, especially with Quan Chi being added and not really much changes coming to everybody else. I feel like it's very hard. I feel like you can even argue that Lee May is above Reptile, because I don't know, with Reptile, this character still needs a lot of help, if I'm being very honest with you. Honeybee is doing very good with Reptile, and there are other Reptile players out there like Costner and all that stuff, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it, if I'm being honest with you. I really don't. But hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did. I would greatly appreciate it. And let me know what you think of the tier list down in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear you guys' thoughts. But until then, I will see you all in the next one. Take care.